Hello everybody from Plant Reviews UK, and I'm finally back after a very long absence. I'm sorry, but I've been busy with work. But I'm really glad to be back on the channel, and I really hope that you will enjoy this first video after such a long absence from my channel. And this is about one of the favorite orchids, and actually is very unique because at the moment is the only Paphiopedilum I own, and it is a quite rare hybrid of two species I really fell in love with, that are Paphiopedilum philippinense and Paphiopedilum sanderianum. Unfortunately, I couldn't find these species for sale, but I was lucky enough 5 years ago to find this hybrid at Orchid Garden. Back then in 2018 I was able to get orchids from Europe without any issue of phytosanitary certificate, so I bought quite a lot of orchids from Europe. This is now finished because of Brexit, and luckily anyway this one I was able to grow successfully, this one, and I'm very glad after 5 years it finally bloomed with these amazing three flowers. This as I said, is a species in the genus Paphiopedilum. Paphiopedilums are orchids that, of course, belong to the family Orchidaceae, like all orchids, but they belong to a particular subfamily called Cypripetioideae, that are the slipper orchids, so called because the labellum, the lip of the orchid, so one of the petals, is modified in a kind of slipper-like shape that really resembles more a pouch to me, or a bucket, rather than a slipper. However, if you see it sideways, it can actually resemble a slipper, and the name Paphiopedilum indeed is dedicated to a city in Cyprus that was sacred to Aphrodite, that is and pedilon in Paphiopedilum is slipper, so it looks like the slipper of Aphrodite should be, because it's dedicated to the city where one of the cities that had Aphrodite as deity protecting the city. This city is in Cyprus. These genus of orchids actually don't grow in Cyprus or in the Mediterranean. They originate from Southeast Asia, New Guinea, and some islands between the Indian and Pacific Ocean. However, the subfamily itself, the Cypripedioideae, has some species actually that grow in the Mediterranean area that belong to the genus Cypripedium, and actually one of them is native also to Europe and the United Kingdom. That is Cypripedium calceolus, one of the most endangered orchids in Europe, and actually also one of the most beautiful. The peculiarity of Cypripediums is that, again, many can easily be cultivated as garden plants, and I made a couple of videos about the Cypripediums I have, and the shape of the Cypripedium kind of resembles actually the one of the Paphiopedilum, so the structure of the flower is indeed very similar. They have the upper tepal that basically is usually oblong, usually oval, and the lower tepals are actually fused in one, so it looks like there is only one other tepal, but actually this tepal is the fusion of two. They fuse in the middle. You can actually see probably this line in the middle. That is basically the area where the two tepals fuse. However, the petals of the Cypripedium and Paphiopedilum, of course, they go sideways. So the two upper petals, they grow sideways. In the majority of Cypripedium and Paphiopedilum, they go sideways and obviously downwards in a kind of diagonal manner, not as vertical as in this Paphiopedilum Krull's Mona Lisa, because obviously the fact that they are so vertical is due to the actual weight of these incredible petals, these very long appendages. In the other Paphiopedilums, as you can see, usually the petals are a lot shorter, and they are not as they don't go as downwards as in this Paphiopedilum. This one is a hybrid, as I said, and is called Krull's Mona Lisa. And it's a hybrid between one species, Paphiopedilum philippinense, used as pollen parents, and another hybrid called Paphiopedilum Michael Kopowitz, that is a hybrid itself between Paphiopedilum philippinensis and Paphiopedilum sanderianum. Therefore, this hybrid has the 75% of Paphiopedilum philippinense and 25% of genetic background from Paphiopedilum sanderianum. These two Paphiopedilum comes from Borneo. They're both present in Borneo, but one, the philippinense, is this one is actually a native also to the Philippines in addition to Borneo, while the other one, that is actually probably my favorite species of Paphiopedilum, the sanderianum, grows only in Borneo. And you can see how incredibly long are the sanderianum petals. However, sanderianum is a species really rare and quite expensive. I never found it for sale before Brexit, and definitely after Brexit now will be a nightmare to get it in UK, and so the Paphiopedilum philippinense. So I'm really glad that 5 years ago I was able to get the Paphiopedilum Krull's Mona Lisa, as I said, from Orchid Garden. I'm trying not to ruin everything. I really wanted to show you the label, and unfortunately you can't really see. I'll try to get it out. Okay, perfect. So yes, you can see this is the Paphiopedilum Krull's Mona Lisa. It is, as I said, an absolutely stunning specimen, and actually found it is pretty easy to grow. However, I will get back first to these species. The species are quite tropical and living in Borneo, and especially the sanderianum lives in an area with copious amounts of rainwater and goes on vertical limestone cliffs in Borneo. And obviously this is the reason why this plant can grow such amazing petals, amazingly long, because obviously if it was a land-dwelling orchid, the petals would be absolutely ruined by the contact of with the ground, so there will really no point. I'm not sure why this species and also the philippinense, that has still quite long petals, evolved such long appendages. Of course, if you know it and you would like to write it in the comments, I would be very pleased to know. The philippinense blooms in late winter, while the sanderianum usually between winter and spring. And actually I have to say that today being the 3rd of February, the Krull's Mona Lisa decided to bloom precisely in the right period according to the species parents. The foliage of the plant is very plain, is, I would say, green, and I can't say it's really like the most average green you can think about an orchid. It's, I would say, maybe kind of possibly lime green. Yeah, that's what I would say. So it's not mottled as the beautiful foliage of other Paphiopedilums you can find on the market, but definitely makes up for the absence of huge color by this amazing flower. The flower stalk is actually very long. This one is about, I would say, 25-30 centimeters long. And usually many gardeners stake it in order for the flowers to appear as beautiful really as it should. However, as you can see, also in the philippinensis, the flower stem is staked. I didn't, because I was a bit worried to damage the roots of the plant, because I'm cultivating this plant in semi-hydro, like most of my orchids. But actually I think it's quite nice as well to have this kind of arching flower stem that goes in downwards with these beautiful flowers dangling at the minimum vibration around. The flower stem is quite hairy. I'm trying to focus. It's very hairy, and there are some bracts just before the ovary of the plant. The upper tepal has a beautiful ornamented. It's like dark red burgundy on a white background, and this is also evident on the upper surface of the upper petal, the external surface, and the color is also reflected by the two lower tepals that, as again, are fused in like one big structure. However, the lower tepal doesn't really have internally the same intensity of this striped background. The two tepals sideways, as I said, are very elongated and quite hairy, and when the bud starts developing, they are kind of enclosed in the bud, and they are actually basically folded, and then these huge petals gets unfolded while the flower is developing, as you can see. So this zigzag shape is due to the fact that these petals were actually folded in the flower bud. Then, whilst the flower develops, obviously these huge petals grow downwards, and you can see they keep this kind of spiral shape, a beautiful spiral shape, and the color as well is this deep burgundy red. The lip is kind of olive green, I would say, as well as the internal part of the petals, the part of the petal that is closest to the center of the orchid, while the pouch is striped internally like purplish, I would say, burgundy. I can't detect really any fragrance on this orchid, unfortunately. I definitely love the shape, but this is not an orchid that I can't really recommend for fragrance, but really, as you can see, it definitely makes up for the lack of fragrance of scent by this amazing shape and color. And anyway, it's good that considering the colors, I would have expected maybe some kind of absolutely terrible fragrance, like in some Bulbophyllum species. Instead, to me, it's absolutely scentless. So at least it doesn't stink, and even if it doesn't smell at all, at least it doesn't stink. So it's still, I would say, a positive note about this orchid. I am really sorry that this orchid is so rare in the United Kingdom, because it's absolutely outstanding. It's also, for me, pretty easy to cultivate in Leca, in semi-hydro. For the exposure of this plant, this is a plant I can recommend quite high amount of lights. I have this plant on a southeastern, in a a southern windowsill, yes, southwest windowsill. Just basically in this windowsill I place the most light-demanding Cattleyas I have. So Cattleya warszewiczii, Cattleya dowiana, as well as Rhyncholelia digbiana. Close to the window, and then just behind them, so it's very bright light, but not direct, because obviously the orchids that I have just in front of the window kind of screen the Paphiopedilum Krull's Mona Lisa behind. So they protect it from direct rays of the sun, but still is absolutely bright. So I think this is actually other gardeners I know found that Paphiopedilums that don't have mottled foliage actually prefer a higher intensity of light. And this plant is not huge at all. At the moment, at least, but again, it's only 5 years. Well, it's not even, it's a little bit more than 5 years old, because I got it 5 years ago, so must have been at least 1 year, I think, when I got this plant. And the leaves are about 20 centimeters when adult, and the plant is, as you can see, like all Paphiopedilum, expands sideways, a bit like Cattleya, so it's a sympodial orchid, not a monopodial like Phalaenopsis, so in time can actually grow as a bush. And of course, the number of flowers on the stem usually is 3 to 5, and big plants can obviously produce multiple flower stems, and they are really spectacular as the parent species when they bloom in you see when they bloom in big plant. Wow, that's a Paphiopedilum sanderianum XXL. Is like priced at $449.95, but somebody already took it because it's from this list. You can wait only for the wish list, but as you can see, it's amazing. It's a stunning, really, effect. And of course, sanderianum has a lot longer petals than the Krull's Mona Lisa, but is still quite similar in shape. If you are interested in getting some more information about sanderianum, you can ask to Klassen Orchideen. However, again, I bought mine from Orchid Garden, a very Good Polish nursery, I have to say. Again, I bought a lot of orchids from orchidgarden.co.uk and before Brexit. And I have to say, very rarely I was disappointed. I really enjoyed many of the plants that the owner sent me, and in case obviously there were some problems, she was very available in replacing the plant. So I'm really glad to have got the chance to have some of my most beautiful orchids in my collection by her. So if you live in Europe, I can definitely recommend Orchid Garden, at least before Brexit now. I don't know how is the situation, but definitely I can recommend it for my experience. I don't think I forget anything about this beautiful orchid. Of course, if I think about anything else, I will put it in my comments down below my video about the the fertilizing of this orchid. I do it as with all my orchids. I basically once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I fertilize it with Orchid Focus, that is a general fertilizer for orchids. And culture conditions, again, I put it in semi-hydro, so we have about 1/4 of the pot in water. I use RO water, and then Leica. This is the medium I use for growing this orchid. This orchid was in bark, and bark is a perfectly fine substrate for Paphiopedilums, and actually, in my opinion, it's a bit risky to move them to Leica, because I lost two Paphiopedilums moving from bark to Leica. So honestly, I was very lucky with this Paphiopedilum. Some people grow Paphiopedilums without any problems in semi-hydro, but evidently in the other two plants I didn't get the right timing when converting to Leica the plant. But I'm really pleased that with this one I didn't have any problem, and you can see how amazing this hybrid is. As usual, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will try to answer as soon as possible. And again, it's a joy to be with you again, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.